The date is, what is it, Uncle Sid?
5th.
November 3rd.
3rd.
Third
Oh,
of
3rd.
November,
Oh,
2001.
oh, great. That's nice. That's a nice year.
It's a nice year. We're all happy to be here. What I first want to know is, what do you know about Grandpa and Grandma? How did they meet? How did they end up getting married? Where did they live? Where did they come from? What were their names?
Well, they must have met in London. They both somehow, one from Russia, one from Poland, both arrived in England about the same time. And in 1918, they were married in London.
So did they come as very young children, or did
They
they
were
come
probably
as
very
teenagers?
young. My dad left when he was 17. My mother must have been about the same age.
They left Poland and Russia
One
when they
left
were
Russia and
17.
one left, yes. And my father came by himself. My mother came with her family. She had 3 sisters and a brother.
And what was her name, do you know?
Resnick.
Resnick.
She was Rebecca Resnick
Yes,
from
Odessa.
Odessa. And Grandpa was,
His name was Izraelchik. Now, no, Izraelovich. Izraelovich means, Ovich means the son of.
son
So
of
he was
Israel.
like the son of Israel. They're probably Jewish. So he made him the son of Israel.
So his name was
Izraelovich.
Jacob Israelovich.
Yes.
And when did he change it to,
We changed
Jacobs.
it. We changed it. I changed it.
you changed it?
Here. My 2 sisters had different names. Because in those days, my mother couldn't read or write. And she went, when you have to go in a name, put your names in, she had neighbors go. And neighbors gave different names. So your mother had a different name. Anne had a different name.
What were their names? It was Marie.
Anne was
Ann Jackson.
Anne Jackson, and that was that. And Marie took a name. It was Marie Jacobs, my father's first name. And then eventually, when I came here, I changed it to my father's first name.
But until you came here, you were Sidney Israelovich?
Yes.
Israel.
Well, Israel, but I changed it to.
You're learning something new.
Yeah,
So
you know.
your name, you were born
Israel.
Israelovich.
I was really.
And you turned into Sidney Jacobs?
I took my father's first name and changed. As a matter of fact.
That was funny. We were engaged, okay? And
Do you want Barbara and Kim?
And my aunt, may his soul rest in peace, who lived in New Bedford, called me up and she said, you know, it's funny, there's somebody in the paper at 527 Bedford Street that got a ticket from the police. I don't remember what, but the name is Israel Israelovich. So she said, isn't that where Sid lives? So I said, yes. So when I spoke to him, he said, well, that's really my name, but I've gone under the name of Sidney Jacobs. I said, well, if we're going to get married, you better have it changed legally. And that's what he did.
What made you choose Sidney?
I've always been called, I don't know why, but I've always been called Sidney or Sid. And we have no problem. We had a problem because in England they spell it S-Y-D, in America it's S-I-D. And going through the Veterans Administration, they said you can't do that. Everything has to be S-I-D. In the last month or 2, we had to change everything to S-I-D. But in England it's S-Y-D. Anyway.
And Mother was always Marie, and Anne was always Anne?
Yeah.
Or did they get
No,
new
no,
names
they
also?
were that Marie and Anne, but they, each one, because those days they didn't read or write, and she had the neighbors and whatever. If they said the neighbor said Smith, they would be Marie Smith.
But Marie was her given, was it
Marie,
Miriam or
Mari, we used to say it's called Mari. In England it's Mari.
Mari? It just seems like a Christian name, that's
Right.
why I'm
No, Mari
asking.
and the same as.
And they weren't given names
And
like
actually-
Hannah, Miriam, it was...
Oh, I think they had Jewish
Hannah.
names, I mean,
Yeah,
as
they
far
had the
as I
Jewish name.
know.
I probably, because those days you went to the synagogue and you had
Got
to have
named.
named and you had to have a Hebrew name. And
Right.
I remember it was that, because every child those days, we were very orthodox. We were very orthodox. Always, Dad, Dad was always an orthodox. So,
No,
everything had to be traditional.
I'm sure that they, but you see, this is the dining room that we have in Florida.
Very nice.
Mm.
And what else you want to know about them?
So, as far as you know, Grandpa was always Jacob or Jacob.
Jacob.
Jacob, and Grandma was always Rebecca.
Actually, his name was that.
His name was Jacob.
We have a
I'm
problem.
finding out that nobody is
Whoever
who they
is
said they were.
listening, we have a problem with names. It was very common during those days that nobody registered a name. Actually, you had to have a registered name. You had to go for passport. When they ignored being registered, you'd be called whatever you want to be called.
And you know, I think at that time too, of course, that didn't enter into this family where there was only one boy, but they used to give the boys separate names so that they wouldn't all be called up, you know.
Oh, I see. So if the army wanted them,
Right, they wouldn't take the one son from a family. They had to be more, so they used to give them like
separate names.
On my side of the family, I was the only male in that generation. All the sisters, everybody had girls. I was the only one man.
Now, who was in England with Rebecca and Jacob, if those were their names? Were those their names? Was he
Yeah.
Jacob? He was always Jacob and she was always Rebecca.
Mm.
And Grandpa had no family. They were left
He
back
had
in...
one uncle.
He had one uncle in England?
Yeah.
And the rest were
They had
left in
nobody.
Eastern Europe?
Mm.
That my mother had. And my mother was one of the few people that came to England from Russia that went back to Russia. They left England and went back to Russia. Her and her mother went back to Russia.
To visit, or?
No, to stay.
But you didn't stay.
But she didn't stay. They stayed there over a year and they came back. But this is unheard. But when
Yeah,
you immigrate to Europe
To go
and to
back.
go back to Russia, and when I told people that they come from Europe, they couldn't believe it. And when they went back to Russia, the village they came from, the people they stayed with, they traced when they came here, they lived in New York, and they went to see them. And these are the people, when they went back, they lived with. And they had immigrated to New York, and they found them in New York. So,
Do you remember their names?
I have no recollection, but they
Or
were...
do you remember the village that they went back
Oh,
to?
the Pukatilla. It's a
Pukatilla?
part of Odessa.
And that's where Grandma was from.
Right, and my father was from Mazrich. When we went to Israel, and the village, or the town where he came from was on the wall, and of the 20-odd thousand Jews that lived there, only about 100 survived.
So Grandpa, other than the one uncle who was in England, lost all his family in the Holocaust?
Yeah, 1938 was 1937 was the last time we heard from his family, and his mother, father, and then a couple of sisters were all lost in the Holocaust.
I didn't realize they were alive for World War
Yeah.
II.
The last we heard of in 1937, and that was it.
And they all lived in one village?
From the same place.
And what was the name of the village again? You just told me
The name of the village?
Yes.
Mazrich.
Mazrich.
And it was in Israel, and there was the name, that the village was completely wiped. There's 100 survivors, known survivors from that area. None with my father's name.
And Grandma went to England when she was a teenager with
She
her
was probably
sisters?
about 16, 17.
With how many sisters?
There was 3 sisters and 1 brother. 1 brother and 1 sister was already in England.
And who were they?
There was the older sister was Tivoli, and the brother was a younger brother, 1 brother, who were in England.
And do you remember his name, or this would be your
Abram.
uncle? Abram.
And what happened when they came, the sister there went to night school, and she did very well in night school, and she had a business, and she was very successful. And then they came.
So she sent money for the rest of the
And
family
she
to
helped
come.
the family out. And then,
So then who came? Rebecca and
there was Alki, Alice, Sadie,
Sadie, Rebecca, and Alice.
and Becky, my mother, and their mother. And
Oh,
her name was
what-
Rose.
What was her?
Wait a minute, what about,
Tivoli was there.
Oh, Tivoli was there. Okay.
She left first. And
And-
wait a minute, I got a letter from England just a week ago, and your cousin, my first cousin, just celebrated 70 years marriage, Dora and Charlie, 70 years, and they had a letter from the Queen.
That's quite something.
Yeah. I
70
got-
this is unusual, 70 years married. And he's a member of the Royal Academy of Art.
Now, how's he related to
It's my aunt.
No,
No,
she-
cousin, she's my first, Dora's my first cousin.
Doris, your first cousin? Who was her mother?
Tivoli, the one that was-
Tivoli, the one who came first to England. So, what was their mother's name? What was Becky's
Rosie.
name? Rosie?
Rose.
Rose Resnick, is
Yeah,
that,
Rose.
it's a pretty name, Rose.
She was a wonderful. I had no grandparents.
Except
They were
for-
lost. They died before they ever came to England. All they had was one grandmother to
Rose.
survive to come to England.
Yeah.
The two,
Her husband had died.
Died.
That's your grandfather, my
and
great-grandfather.
then my father's father had died too, and a grandmother. So I had one grandmother living. That's all.
That's all.
So two grandfathers and a grandmother passed away before they came to England.
So the, I'm sorry, so it was 3 girls that came over and there was a girl and boy here?
Yes.
I mean, girl and boy in England already. So there are
Right.
5 of them altogether.
My father was just.
So, wait a minute.
Is there
There
5?
there was 5 in your mother's family, that's what Linda's.
Yeah.
Becky, Sadie,
Yeah.
Alice, and
Tivoli.
Tivla, and the boy, Abram.
Abram. You met Auntie Sadie, you know.
Yes, I know Auntie Sadie. And,
And her husband.
yes, Sadie and Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac.
But the ones that, I know the ones that came here, but I don't know the ones who stayed.
No, I
In
wouldn't know.
England.
I met, I got a little.
But I remember my mother talking, she was close to Min,
Right,
there was Little
Another
Min.
cousin.
and Big Min.
right.
Now, whose children were they? Alice's? With, oh, well, it must be
She
two
had,
different.
Min had one daughter,
Wait a minute, so who was Min and Dora's mother? Tivoli?
Tivoli.
Yeah.
Tivla or Tivli?
Tivoli.
Tivli had 2 daughters, Min and Dora. Dora's still alive,
Right.
the one who just had her
That's one that's
anniversary.
70
And
years.
Min
Min
is,
passed away, and her husband passed away, and one daughter passed away.
their daughter was Carol?
Yeah.
Carol.
Really? So she,
She was an actress.
I remember she came to visit us once in Greenfield when I was little, must have been the late 50s.
She was in the, what's that?
And she was a ballet dancer.
Right.
Yeah.
And she did a drawing on our chalkboard in Greenfield, in our playroom, of a beautiful ballerina. And it stayed there until, eventually someone had to wash the chalkboard.
This is a picture of 70 years ago.
Dora and Charles Daniels. And there they are in 1930. What was Min's last name when she married?
Sopel.
Min Sopel. And her
Jack-
daughter was
Jack-
Carol Sopel, and it
Yeah.
was Min and Jack?
Mm.
Jack became a director of one of the largest soft good companies in the world, Marks and Spencer.
I remember my mother telling me that Big Min, which Carol's mother, was very wealthy,
Yeah.
or lived in the fancy part of London.
Mm.
Little men,
Went to Scotland, married.
yeah,
Now, who's her mother?
that was Elkie.
Alki was her mother.
I don't know whether we should put this on there about Elkie. Should we cancel it? She was married 3 times, had 3 children.
So all 3 children had different fathers.
She
Right.
was a black sheep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but she lived to be
I
over
think she was a
90.
hot ticket,
Yeah.
wasn't she?
Oh, she's a hot ticket.
That's-
She lived to be over 90.
That's Wendy's grandmother.
Wendy's
Isn't
grandma.
So
that
she had,
Wendy?
yes, so she had 3 children, Little Min, and who were the other 2?
No,
She had, who's the one that died from South Africa?
I knew I had relatives in South Africa.
It wasn't her name Ann?
Anne, yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
Ann.
I remember my mother telling
Then
me,
we
I
have-
had relatives in South Africa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then we had little Anne, Min,
And who's the one that's living in Canada now? Betty.
Betty.
Ann, Betty, and Little Min.
Little Min.
So they.
Were Alki's, now is
Alki.
Alki the same as Alice? Is that,
Yeah,
yeah, Alki, those were Alki's
We
children.
had 3 children, 3 girls.
Uh-huh.
And
And,
Tivoli had 2 girls. Uncle Abe had no children, and my mother had 4 children.
And Sadie had,
Sadie had 2
two
girls
girls,
too.
a lot of
So
girls.
I was only male in that generation.
Yeah, you know, something I've never heard about Abe.
Abe, he never had children. He had very successful business.
I never met him.
Never
And
met
he
him?
was quite a guy, and both of them died when we came here. Both Auntie Anne, there's no more children, so.
They both died in the 50s then, or
Probably.
40s.
I was by the time I left England, another year or 2.
Well, I know when I went back in '72, they
They
were
were
around.
And grandma, my great-grandma, your grandma Rose, when did she pass away?
She passed away during the war.
During the war. Okay, so now what can you tell me about your childhood home?
Childhood was known. We all went to school.
What was the
We
name of the
had-
school you went to?
The Jewish Free School.
Jewish free school?
It's a parochial school, Jewish parochial school. It's the largest parochial school in Europe, and it was just, I think there was about 2,000 students, all Jewish.
And this is in what part of London? Is this the east?
Side. We lived
The
in the
east side, which
yeah.
was a Jewish ghetto, was?
Yeah, it was, I would say that. It's like the east side of New York.
East side of New York.
And then we went to school, and both of the girls were very brilliant, but unfortunately, those days, you finished school at 14 and you went to work.
You went to, so Anne and Marie did very well in school.
Both of them were excellent and matriculated, both of them, and they went to.
And I think my mother told me, if I remember, it's
She
been so
went
long.
she went to
A trade school?
sort
But
of
she,
trade
but
school.
I think she told me that she was quite talented in art,
Yes, she was.
and that she maybe, even though she couldn't take advantage of it, was maybe offered some kind of scholarship or.
She was sewing dresses in a small sweatshop in London, and we went back in '72, and we went down to this cellar where your mummy worked at one time, sewing dresses. But in those days, businesses are transferred from father to son, and so on. And it was something to see. I couldn't believe that this is where Marie worked in this cellar.
Then did Anne work there also?
No, Anne worked, she was a milliner. She made hats.
Interesting, interesting. Now, from when I was very little, I remember that my mother sewed beautifully and could knit beautifully and crochet. Did Rebecca do all those things?
My mother crocheted, but those days, coming from the old country, they mostly were, they could never, you know, the strange thing I always think about my father, this is strange, is that he could hardly read or write, very little, my mother. But yet his 2 grandsons, one went to Oxford and one went to Cambridge. Do you remember that time? One grandson.
I think William,
Oh, Will.
William.
Will, and also Jacob.
Jacob. One was in Oxford and one was in Cambridge. The same
Jacob.
year. That's
Oswald.
Oh, Jake Cosgrove.
They were both in the same period, and they tried to get them together, somehow they couldn't meet.
Oh.
So we had 2 grandchildren, one in Oxford and one in Cambridge. He must have been smiling. He said, see, it doesn't matter where you start off, it's where you finish.
No,
Well, I also remember that Grandpa, though, even, I remember at his funeral, I didn't realize, I remember the rabbi talking about what a great student of the Talmud he was.
He was very well learned.
And that there was, I started to, at that point, to see the difference between, you know, kind of school learning and occupational learning. And then the learning that comes around being a religious Jew all your life. That he was very well respected for his
Probably those days,
Talmud knowledge.
but he never went to school. Probably he just went to the Talmud Torah.
Yeah,
And he was going like what we call today in the Shiva.
yeah, right.
And then he studied there. When he came here, he was very well, always well learned in England too. He was constantly in the synagogue, twice a day, morning and at night. Was his life, more than anything else, the synagogue.
Well, now
Probably,
I heard he was a gambler. Was he a gambler? Yeah, I want to hear. We want
You
warts and
know,
all. We don't want.
It's funny that you term the word gambler. If you feel like $2 bet is such a great amount of money, just a great amount of money that you decide to call him.
but the funny thing is,
Oh,
he
this is funny.
couldn't read or write. but yet he knew the name of all
Of
the
every
horses.
horse, every jockey.
So the,
every-
so the horses were his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He bet on the horses, and did he and Grandma fight about the, or I don't know what the dynamics were, I don't know what life was like then. Or
Li-
did whatever he
life-
did was
life-
fine.
You know, it's something, life is hard. You wanna know what life was? We lived, 5 people lived in 2 rooms. No
That was in
running water.
England.
No, in Eastern, no running water. You had to walk down one flight for water. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of the public bathhouse. We all went once or twice a week.
To bathe.
And I brought it to Rosie, and Rosie just moved to this magnificent home. I showed her the picture, and this is for you, to just remember where we came from. We never had a bathroom, you couldn't take a bath in the house, you had to walk to a public bathroom. And say, here Rosie, this is for you.
So you had a bathroom in the house that was downstairs, so you had to go down a flight to get
Oh,
water?
the regular
or-
toilet, yes, you had there's one on one for about 4 or 5 families, but there was nowhere to take a bath.
Right. So,
So you
and,
had to go to
and
public-
you didn't have a sink in the 5 rooms? I mean, in the 2 rooms?
2 rooms, yeah, we probably have a sink around. No, I don't think we did. You had
How
to
about
walk down
for
a
when your
block.
mother was cooking?
She had to go down one flight, there was an open sink.
Oh.
We had no running water in it.
And what did, she stayed home and kept a
Yeah.
Jewish home.
Very good.
And Grandpa, what did,
Working as a tailor.
as a tailor, and Mother worked is sewing, and worked making hats.
Yeah.
You were still in school probably.
And then I went to a factory too.
And then what kind of
Yeah.
factory?
Clothing factory, and I learned to became a tailor.
And then you went to the factory, and then, well, Mother didn't stay sewing, because I know that
No,
she
she went to a.
Before I move ahead.
She went to a school for design. She had a
That's
good
what
art for
she
design.
probably got a scholarship for that.
She's
And
got-
then I think she did some modeling, didn't she?
Yeah, she did some modeling. After that, no, she did eventually, she worked, and then she decided to go into designing, and as you said about her drawing, she could draw very well, and she had a flair for making clothes. And then she did it for a short while, then she went into a wholesale manufacturer, as a in the showroom, but she was modeling clothes. She was stunning figure, and she was a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful girl.
I have,
I'll show you one of my pictures.
yeah, I think we may have the same one, a picture of when she was, I have pictures, I'll show you some. But they start, I think, a little later during the war. So what happened, you were going along, you were
I
all
went
growing
away,
up, and then what happened?
In 1941, I was called in 1940, well, that's a beautiful picture. I never seen that one. But in 1941, I was called up. You know what my mother said? The king sent you a letter. So I said, what do you mean?
She
said,
spoke to you in Yiddish or in Russian or in
mostly
Polish?
in Yiddish. The Russian and Polish, when they didn't want us to understand. And she said, there's a letter from the king. And then she said to me that it was my called up papers. And the day I came home and said, Mom, you know, I passed A1. She says, it's the one day I didn't want you to be well. Yeah, that's sense of humor. My
So
dad had a great sense of humor.
She
really.
did, and Grandpa, or no?
Yeah, he did too, but
I
Yeah,
remember-
tries.
he was very
Try-
strict.
I remember,
strict.
see, I don't, what I remember is going there. Grandpa was, you know, he would just pinch, he was so excited to see me.
Yeah.
And he'd hop from foot to foot. He'd go back and forth, foot to foot,
Yeah.
and say, oh,
Yeah.
my Shana, I can't remember what he called me.
Shana
Shana
Punim.
Punim.
My Shana Punim.
Yeah.
He,
The thing is that Grandpa had a lot of patience with the children.
yeah, more patience than Mom. He brought us up when he was the patience of a saint. You know, 3 of us in 2 rooms. And today, you look at the homes the kids have today, and we're very fortunate that we have our own homes today, but it was a struggle. And it was a struggle in the east side of New York in a period of time, just before the Depression years.
Yep.
And it was a tough struggle, and he worked very hard. He worked day and night in the sweatshops period of time. And I think the most wonderful thing that happened to them was coming to America and having such wonderful son-in-laws to help them out. He has to be thankful.
There was nothing wrong with the daughter-in-law either, Sid.
Yeah, Oh, they married first, and
Well,
and they're so great to them, and I have to tell you a funny story. We never had telephones those days, and I was in my store, I came there, and I get a call, this is strange, and it's my father talking, and he was on the Queen Elizabeth. So I said to him, Dad, where are you? He said it in Jewish, but in English he said, how the hell do I know? Speak to the captain. And this is the first time I said, what? He said, how do I know? I don't know, speak to the captain.
Yeah.
Then he would tell you where I am. And that
Why
time,
he
Rossi
called-
had the measles on
Yeah.
board ship.
who did?
Rossi.
Oh, yeah, before I get to the war years,
Yeah.
now Roz was born when my grandma was how old? She must have been close to
She's about
50.
40, no, about 46. Oh, she didn't know.
Yeah, but how old was she?
She was about 46, 47. She didn't know that Marie and Ann, my mother was complaining. She said, we found a woman doctor and we're taking you to this doctor. Mom said, no. She said, Mom, you must go. And they went to the doctor.
Why were they going to take her? Because
She wasn't feeling well, and she had swollen stomach. And the doctor said, Mrs. Jacobs, you're 7 months pregnant. She didn't know.
After 3 children, she didn't know, but I guess at that time, at that age, she figured, how could I be pregnant?
Right, my mother must have been already 20
Well, this is
years old or
19,
close.
this is
close to 20.
19 years.
There's 19 years between Uncle Sid and Roz.
And how many years between you and my mom?
I
I think my
No,
mom was
okay.
born in 1919.
Yeah, 4 years, 4 years.
3 years.
4
If
years.
your mother was born in 1919,
1919.
you were born in
So
1922.
it was 4 years, I think, the 3 of us.
Between the 3 of you. So there was, so if you were
And my-
19, she was 20.
And 19.
22.
22. And Ann was 21 because...
Oh, but before we got to Leeds, is that we were living in London during the bombardment. And it was in September the 17th, exactly just a little over 61 years ago. And it was the first day of Rosh Hashanah. 1,000 German bombers tried to burn London down. And that's the night we lost our home.
And that was, what was the date?
It was
September?
September the 17th, 1940.
1940.
The first 1,000 plane, and I was an ARP warden, I was outside in the streets. And we lost our home, and we lived in an air raid shelter with a couple of 100 people. We never undressed.
And Rosie was a baby.
Rossi was, Rossi was born, what year was she?
I don't know. Sid,
Well, if my mother was born in 1919,
No,
and Rosie was
Rosie-
born 22 years later.
Okay, let me...
29, 39. Oh, so
Rosie-
Rosie,
Rossi was
wasn't-
born in 40. No.
40 or 41?
41.
41,
Because
because...
we
this
moved
was
to
a year,
Leeds.
so your mother, so this was a year before Rosie was born.
Mm.
Yeah, and we lost our home, we stayed in air raid shelter, and then the
Yeah, she
factory
got,
was,
and she
burned down.
got pregnant, basically, when the 3 of them were away. Probably in the air raid shelter.
I don't know.
She was born...
where
she
does
must
the
have-
wilderness away? I
She-
don't know.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. She was living with 200 people in an air raid shelter.
She was born in 41, I think, because
41.
when we were married in 52, maybe, because when I met her, she was 11 when we got married.
Yeah, she was born in
And
41.
when we got married in 52.
When I left England in 41, and she was 5 months old,
Okay.
6 months old.
Then, you didn't stay in the, well, you were gone. You left,
No,
when
we
did you
lost
leave?
our home, and then we moved to Leeds
Right, but and when were you called up and?
in 1941 in Leeds.
Oh, so they got you from Leeds. So
Yeah,
you,
we
so did
moved
all of
out.
you move to Leeds?
What we did, we had no house to live in. There's nothing to
And,
live
you
in.
know, I
We lived in
remember-
a shelter.
I remember my mother telling me she had a cat or something.
Oh yes, they had the pussycat. Yeah.
And she lost her cat.
Yeah.
And she lost all her
We-
photographs, except for one of the 3 of you as children.
And
You
let
and
me
Mom.
tell you, that night, that big air raid, Anne and Marie was somewhere in London, and they couldn't get back. And we didn't know where they were for 24 hours. We thought they were lost in that air raid.
I remember my mother telling me, a couple of stories I remember. One, I remember her telling me going to see the movie Gone with the Wind, which must have been right around that time since the movie came out in 1939. I remember her telling me how she was starving because she didn't know it was so long. And the person in front of her in the movie theater had lots of food and kept eating, and she was starving sitting behind him. And I also remember her telling me that she took a vacation or for some other reason went to Paris. Do you have any recollection of her going
She
to
could have
Paris?
gone because that, if it was a period of time, war was declared in 39.
I remember her telling me that someone said to her, go home, there's going to be war. So it must have been, she must have been a teenager.
In 38.
In 38. And she loved Paris, and she was there for some reason. And she remembered, she told me she remembered someone who owned the residence where she was telling her to go home, there was going to be war, and that she cried because she loved it there so much. But you have no recollection of her
war
going
was
to
declared
Paris.
September the 3rd, 1939. That's when Chamberlain got up and said we're now at war with Germany. And you couldn't move after that period of time.
After that, so it had to be before that.
Yeah, so it had to be in 38 or 37. So she must, I don't remember going there. But
So you all moved to Leeds? Where did you find housing in Leeds?
Marie went first.
Did you have
And
a
she
connection there?
No, she was in the showroom for this company. They were moving to Leeds. And she went first and found a house for us. We all moved to Leeds.
Because I think you, your father, and Uncle Isaac.
Went after
all-
Marie, but Marie went
Yeah,
first.
but wait a minute, that you all worked in the same factory.
Yeah, we all worked in the same
And
factory.
then Marie worked in the showroom. Because as a matter of fact, the boss's son really liked your mother.
And who was that? What was do you remember?
Julius.
Jack Julius.
Jack Julius.
I remember the name.
Yes,
Somehow.
you remember the name, but he was the one that was crazy for Marie. And
And she didn't date him, or she didn't want to go?
I don't know, I think she went in
spurned
once
him?
or twice, but then he came to, he came to New Bedford to see her.
Oh, really?
And not only that, I was,
Not just to
this
see
is
her.
an
did he?
unusual,
Well, at that time,
this
he
is an
was a father,
unusual
too.
story. I'll tell you about this. A fellow in West Warwick came up to me, he said, I'm playing golf with a fellow from England. So I said, well, find out his name. He came back, his name is Jack Julius. And he was living in Jupiter. He bought a condo in Jupiter.
Frenchman's Creek.
Really?
And he was living
the
there.
same
And I
Jack
spoke to
Julius?
him, yeah, it was my old boss. And as soon as I mentioned that he owes me some, my back pay, he put the phone down.
Not really.
No.
I'm only
Real.
joking, but I did say to him he owes me some back pay.
Now, did he remember right off?
Oh, because he went to New Bedford and then he went to Marie, my father worked with
And
his
he
father.
remembered Bill.
And he remembered Bill, and my father worked for him about 25 years, and knew his father, knew his family. And I met Jack Julius. We didn't meet, actually. One of these days we have to get together.
So, Mother found a house in Leeds. Now, it must have been a better living situation than London, because at least you probably had more room.
Well, it was the first house, not only that, Leeds wasn't being bombed like London.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate to get there, and then we lived.
And then you had a house, really?
Yeah, we have a nice house there, and then we, from there, I was called to the college in 41, I think it was August 41, and from there, 4 months I went overseas, and that was it. I was away for 4 years.
So you didn't meet, so now we're going to have a gap in the history, because you were gone.
No, I was gone.
So you didn't meet, when you came back, Ann was gone, my mother was gone,
Yeah,
they're both married,
Yeah.
so.
I got a piece of the wedding cake from Marie. It's been traveling 3 months in the tropics. Wait a minute. And they have, in English cakes have a lot of marzipan, that sugar.
Yes, yeah.
The maggots were coming out of that cake like you'd never seen in your life, and we enjoyed every piece of it.
Well, that was sweet that my mother sent it. That,
She sent me that cake piece of the wedding cake.
now, I assume this picture was taken from when she was in New York, because when she had already come
I
over
don't
in
know.
40, I think it says New York on it. So it was probably
So
after.
this is when she was here.
She was probably sending pictures back to my dad, I think, so that he wouldn't forget her.
Yeah.
Now, these, I think,
Gorgeous.
are my great-grandparents, but on my father's side.
Now, where do they come from?
I don't know, and I don't know, it may be on the tape I did with my Uncle Dick. Because this I started and didn't finish many, many years ago. This is my father's parents.
I can tell who this is just by the dress.
This is the this is the 50th anniversary.
This was their 50th anniversary.
Right, this is the picture we have. It's the 50th
Yes.
anniversary, and then we had a big party.
Now, how old was she here?
When there's much.
This is Grandma.
Yeah, this she must have been about 50.
50? I have a picture of her in a
Excuse
beautiful.
me.
This is 34.
Honey.
Oh, wait a minute, this is in England.
Yeah, but
34.
this one here,
No, that
she was
one.
more than 50.
Oh, no, I'm
yeah,
sorry,
no,
I
no.
thought this one. This one here?
Yeah, this one.
This looks like it was still in Leeds, 34 Grange Avenue.
34 Grange Avenue was
Yeah,
your address in
yeah,
Leeds?
Leeds. So she must have been in Leeds, so that was, she must have been about 40-something.
Really? I have a picture of her actually looking very shapely, you know, in a,
She is,
in
yeah,
a,
she was
in a
very,
dress,
very-
in a skirt,
good
where she had a
looking.
thin waist.
Excuse me, if Rosie was born already in Leeds, so she had, if you
Late
said
40s.
she
Yeah,
had to
the
be in her
late
late
40s, so
40s.
she's about that time. There's the address, 34 Grange Avenue. with it.
This is,
Lucky you have
who's
to
this?
know.
that's Sarah. Sarah, my father's mother.
Oh.
And this is Sarah. And these handsome
These,
children.
oh, we haven't seen this. Dora. Now, my mother and father didn't believe in pictures, and we never had our pictures taken as young people. Dora came down to visit us, and she took us to a photographer. And the first time, this is the first picture of the three of us young. They
I
did not
remember
believe
her.
in pictures. And as Marie and Anne and myself, I think I must have been about 2 years old. 3, 4,
The girls are
5.
beautiful.
Mm.
And they look like they have beautiful clothes. I know you said that life was hard.
Yeah, but
they
Dora
have
must have,
beautiful
then I think
clothes.
Dora must have bought them the clothes.
Now, Dora was their
Cousin.
cousin, but she was older,
Oh, much
a
older.
much older cousin.
But this is the first picture we had taken.
Now, how did this save them from the bombing? I don't know how this.
This was, no, this was before the war.
This was, but it wasn't lost.
Damaged.
Damaged when your house was blown up.
The only thing, you know, on the 50th anniversary,
Wait a minute, sir. What Linda's trying to say,
How'd it get out?
how did these pictures survive the bombing?
I don't know, I really couldn't tell
Mother
you.
might have
Unless
had it in a
the-
wallet or
Your mother
something.
must have brought it.
And you know what, Linda, the house actually that they lived in was bombed, but the front of it was still standing. So, I mean, they might have gone through some
And
of the
found-
rubble and found it.
something.
Or maybe Dora had those pictures.
I always say Dora had it, maybe.
What was your address in London? I forgot, I don't know if I
It
remember to
was
ask.
7 Tenter Street.
Tenter?
Yeah,
T-E-N?
T-N-T-R, Tenter Street. But before that, we lived on, I told you, we lived in the 2 rooms. We went from the 2 rooms to a house in the east end of London.
So as all children were working, there must have
Yeah,
been more
yeah,
income.
so we went to this little house,
Went to a house on Tenter Street.
and that's where we got bombed.
And
In
before,
we got bombed in 1940,
40s.
yeah,
Yeah, and
September
do you
1940.
remember your address in the 2 rooms that you lived in?
Yes, it was, the buildings was owned by Tivoli. My aunt Tivoli owned the buildings.
Was it Ailey
And
Street?
on St. Mark Street.
St. Mark's.
I don't
Your
know.
aunt owned the building?
Yeah.
And did she
and
live there?
No, my aunt didn't live there. She gave them the apartment there, the 2 rooms.
Sounds like they were wealthy people who came over and settled in
was-
England and became very
That was-
wealthy.
That was
Tivoli, that was
Dora.
Min and Dora's mother. She married son for, she lived in a mansion. She became.
She was very wealthy, and then little
Very
Min became very
articulate.
wealthy, and Big Min became very wealthy.
Yeah, and Dora.
And Dora.
This is the funny thing that this is.
Do you have a copy of this?
I did have somewhere.
Nice.
I gotta get a, you must have.
This is my father's family. This is my father. This is the guys during the war. This is, and I have
Where's Bill?
here. This
Oh, this is me. Where I was
in your Bermuda shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my fifth home, and I just got over there from. I just arrived at time.
And this I think was probably Leeds.
That's in Leeds. That's in the big park there, Roundy Park. And here's Anne and here's Rosie. She's gorgeous little girl, and this is another one.
This is Grandma.
Grandpa.
Unfortunately, when Grandma went to Florida.
This is me, isn't it?
Yes.
We had given her the pictures
How did
that
she
she
get this
had,
picture?
and she was only in Florida for a few weeks when Ann moved her into like a retirement home.
Right, I
or
remember the
something.
Jewish rehab
The
center.
Jewish rehab, and
The pictures got lost?
evidently when Ann and Jake split up, Jake took whatever he could, and he had the pictures. And
Of growing up, of bleeds and,
yeah, you know, whatever pictures there were.
This,
And when Jake died, Malcolm said the apartment was unbelievable, so
they
that he
threw
couldn't.
everything out.
Yeah.
this is, I came back, I just came back from overseas. This is a party we went to. I just came back from, just came back.
This when you were on leave, or?
No, I finished with the army. This is after I came back. We went to a party. I think it was a party from the factory.
And my mother's not here.
No,
Or-
no. Your mother, I think, was in America by then. When
Oh.
I got back, your
Oh,
mother.
wait a minute, Sid, you couldn't have come back on leave because Ann was there. When you came back,
Ann was gone?
No,
Ann
she was
was-
just there. She left. I think she was.
honey,
oh,
you
no,
hadn't
no.
seen
So it
her.
must have been before then.
It looks like it was before, and I wouldn't be surprised if my mother took the picture, or someone's, I don't know, it must have been some celebration, but
This is-
Grandma looks young,
See,
Rosie looks little.
Sometimes you have this picture. I never knew what she had there. I must have sent it to her.
Yeah, you and the elephant. I love this because they're
Yeah.
both so lovely.
This is in Mounty Park.
And this is Roz? I think that's Roz.
No,
No?
no.
It looks like the little coat that she's wearing here. It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah, it
coat.
must be Rosie.
So that's Rosie, and I don't know who the boy is.
Who must have been?
And I know my mother had some of these done, but
Silhouettes.
silhouettes, but I don't know where or when.
Look at these pictures. It's
Look
unbelievable.
how gorgeous Ann
She's beautiful.
And
Now-
you too.
This, I think, what did my mother do in Leeds? She still continued to work in the showroom?
Showroom. She worked in the showroom.
And she also went to, is this like a USO or whatever the English equivalent? She met my father somewhere.
Yeah.
I never knew how she met him.
I think she met my Uncle Mark first. Here they are dating. And here's my Uncle Mark, and here's my dad in
You mean they
England.
will both surf together?
They've served
It's
together.
very unusual to have a.
I think that's what happened, and I think my mother told me she met Mark and maybe went out with him once or twice, and he
You know, Mark was
introduced
my
her.
best man at the wedding. My wedding.
I didn't know that.
He was the best man.
And then,
I never had any family. Most of the people we invited to Palestine, all of them were ushers.
there are enough of them.
Yeah, I used to show some pictures. Really fun.
And then I think this is when they were dating. My father's in his army uniform,
Mhm.
and I think Ann went along as a chaperone
Wow.
because it looks like they used to take picnics and go off into
Yes,
the
yeah.
country.
Oh,
And this is
I-
my mother and dad at whatever this is. I
See,
think it's some kind of
these
social.
pictures, this is something I didn't know how they met or what the story was.
I think that's all I have except for their wedding.
I have this picture too, and it's Rosie.
And this, your parents had a tree planted before there was an Israel, state.
Oh, planted by the parents of the bride in the names of Marie and Jacob Palestine on the occasion of the, isn't that something?
What's that?
British Jewry tribute.
To the king of Denmark Forest in Israel, though Israel wasn't a nation yet, on the occasion of their wedding, which was December 10th, 1944.
Isn't that something?
Who planted this?
This is mom and dad. They put it in honor of the
Oh.
Marie Jacobs and William Palestine tree, 3 trees planted in Israel.
Oh.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I have hundreds of
This-
unidentified pictures that
this
you can
is-
help me with.
this
This
is
is
like-
Aunt Alice.
Yeah, Alki, Alice.
That's Alki,
My
okay.
darling niece Marie Jacobs, something like that, 1950s. With
Some of
love.
these I have never
Alki
seen.
died just about 1990.
Yeah. And I don't know who this is, but we have a number of pictures over the years.
This I don't know.
You don't know, okay. Well, I'll put this one aside. This handsome young guy.
That's me. I never knew it, these pictures. This is outside here.
Not our house.
No, this is Marie's house.
This I think was on John Street.
Yeah.
These are, is that,
Alki,
and her grandchildren.
yeah,
See, now I'm getting to know.
Let me see.
yeah, Alki, which one?
Now, this is, says,
You know who this is?
What, Wendy?
This must be
Wendy.
Wendy and,
her brother.
what's his name? It begins with a B. I don't
So this is Aunt Alice, Alki.
Alki had
know. Do you know something?
She had beautiful jewelry.
Yeah, Manette looked just like,
Yeah,
looks just
Manette.
like
We
her.
went to England, was with Manette. My cousin Manette.
Who?
We went to
Manette,
England.
Wendy's mother. We stopped there, we stayed in.
That's Little Min.
Yeah.
Minette, yeah.
Minette.
Mm.
She calls herself Minette now, it's me.
It's Little Min in French, so,
Um,
Minette. And she's still in England.
Yeah,
And she's married to the same,
brother
you
Ted,
know,
yeah.
Ted.
Ted, yeah. Levine.
Ted
Ted
Levine.
Levine.
And they're Chuck had an uncle, Ted Levine.
Yeah.
This says, I don't know, to dear friend, this is Love Millie. I don't know who Millie is. Some of these people.
April 45, no.
What the heck is his name say?
Now this I think was a friend of my mom's. This is Brighton, 1959. Andrew and Gordon were her sons, and I think this was one of my mom's good friends. I don't know. Actually, her son came to visit us in Greenfield. And this says, this is Andrew, 1947, with love to Auntie Marie and Uncle Bill. And Lois was born, but nobody else. So who would have been,
Andrew
Ma-
was 2 months old.
so that's one of my mother's nieces.
Auntie Marie and Uncle Bill.
Yeah. So I don't know who that woman is who had,
She may be somebody there.
and this says love from Rosalind.
These are the ones she knows, so we'll keep them separate.
Now this is that little girl with the long braids again. Here she is at a wedding. I don't know what it says on the back.
You want to keep
Well,
these separate?
2-year-old.
These we know. Yeah.
Francis, July is,
I bet Rosie would love to see this.
She must have it, no?
oh, she must have
Let me
You
see.
can bring it
Boy,
to the
I saw a
Jacobs-
couple of pictures
Jacobs
there, I never
reunion
knew
Hmm?
existed.
She could bring them to the Jacobs reunion.
Right.
Claire and Jackie, any ideas?
Jackie Bryman, would it be Jackie Bryman?
Oh, yes, the Brymans, that's it.
Thank you, I'm so glad
The
you.
Brymans lived with us in the building,
Which building?
when we lived in St Mark Street in the east end of London. And one of them's now in,
Do you want a pen to put Bryman on it?
Bryman. Where
A
they-
pencil, really.
One is in, what's the name, where she lived? We were in contact with her, they used to live in.
Daddy lives in Connecticut, West Hartford.
West Hartford, one of them, that's an old friend, Marie's friend from the London.
Maybe is that the one who had Gordon and Andrew as children? Is this the same woman?
No,
No?
she never had,
Betty-
yes, she had a couple of girls.
No.
No, Betty has a couple of boys.
And
And
we
a
went to another
daughter.
wedding with- That Jackie was my close friend, Jackie Bryman, and his sister was a close friend to Marie.
Jackie Bryman.
I wouldn't be
So
a
that, oh, I know those two. And these are pictures that my mother would send to my father when she first got to New Bedford. She'd send these kind
Oh,
of
that's
cute
outside the house.
pictures of herself back so he wouldn't forget who she was.
Oh, you know who this one is, right?
Yes. And I have lovely pictures from
This
their
picture
wedding.
wasn't taken here, I had to leave.
Claire and Jackie Bryman?
Yeah.
This is typical Englishman with my pipe, I used to smoke a pipe.
Oh, isn't this cute?
That's from Canada.
So, excuse me, what's Betty's sister's name?
Um,
Betty Bryman's sister's name. Yeah, we
That's
have
what-
this picture.
I had to go, I lived in Montreal for a year.
I didn't know.
I had to leave the country, I came here on a business, I had to leave the country. I have to tell you that story. Auntie Sadie,
Auntie Sadie looks very
she
handsome.
was great.
She's a beautiful woman.
Here's Roz as a teenager.
It's Min. That's
Min.
Min.
I don't know where that was. Min must have come here to visit.
Yeah, she was in
Yes, she
Rebecca.
came here, she came here twice.
That's Carol.
Carol and Jack.
Jack was her dad?
Now, I wonder if this is you or one of your sisters.
That's me.
Yeah,
That's
that's
you.
what I thought.
But I don't know what the occasion was.
I
Everyone
think
was-
it might have been Lee's wedding.
Cousin
Oh,
Lee,
cousin Lee,
yeah,
that's
she
Sadie and
was married,
Jack's,
yeah.
Sadie and Isaac's daughter.
Yeah.
But nobody,
Because I found
is
a
okay.
picture similar to this.
yeah.
I have this picture.
She
Says
put
to
on
my-
the
read the back.
to my loving sister Marie. Oh, this is a nice picture. Nobody used to see me and say David Niven.
David Niven, I see it.
Oh, but look at this picture.
I saw-
That's about 4 pictures I haven't.
1949, it says from Lena.
Well, Lena is Auntie Sadie's daughter.
This is Carol.
That's Carol.
And some of these people, this says Margate, which I guess is where it was taken, but I don't know who these people are.
Margate, August 1948. Margate is a resort area.
Oh, wow, I hadn't seen this picture in a long time.
This says, this is the little girl with braids, only this is more information. Frances, age 11.
This is my, so your mother
Sid,
must have been.
Sid, would Frances be Betty's sister?
That's the little girl with braids that we have a number of pictures
Betty.
of.
No, that wasn't her.
She is.
Still don't know.
I don't,
Still a
she
mystery.
must have gone on Margate in 1948.
This says from Baron and Rosalie.
That's Baron
Is Wendy's brother.
and Wendy's brother.
That's
That's the
Wendy
name I-
and Baron.
Oh, and that's Little Min?
No,
No,
that's
that doesn't-
Alki.
Oh, that's Alki. Oh, another one you sent. You were good about sending.
Sid,
Oh, I know, I hope to see you soon. Where's it from? S.W. Woods from the Brigade Leagues. Oh, this I sent to you here. I just got back from overseas.
look at this picture.
Now, who is this?
This is Sid and I can't believe it, but all
This
about
is, this, you
this.
see,
very
my bush
glamorous,
hat, I
right?
just come back and I just arrived back and I sent her a picture.
Any idea who this is? This is signed, I think, Ted.
That might be Wendy's father, I think it is.
I think this is Ann and Jack when they were dating or just married.
Oh, yes, probably, yeah. You know, he passed away.
I guess I did hear.
He had a military funeral.
And there's Mom during the war. This is when she was this a, well, you weren't there. I think this is like a USO club and that's where she met Dad. It's a place for them all to socialize and go. I don't know when she had these done, but they look quite old. Baby picture unidentified.
Gee, it brings back memories.
Oh, I didn't bring down those pictures I
I
did.
bet you
I
haven't
got
seen
it.
this one.
The two of us, maybe was dating. Don't you was married, Bobby?
Yeah, I think we were married.
Do you remember much about Brant Island?
Brant Point or Brant Island?
We called it
Brant-
Brant Island.
Brant
Point.
Island. I have some pictures of the houses being built on Brant
You
Island.
know, we
You
saw,
know what, I have these pictures.
Oh, you do?
that's,
I just found them.
This is of some occasion.
Yeah,
Is this Lee's wedding?
I think it
the
was
house in
Lee's.
Brant Island was built by one of the fellows, a couple of fellows in the factory for $35,000. We saw an ad in the paper. A house to sell in Brant Island on the waterfront, $650,000.
Now,
That was Lester's house.
were you already here when they bought the land and
Yeah,
built the houses?
I went out with Herbie, it was woods. I'll never forget with Herbie. We went out and he showed me the woods and they built 3 houses. 1, 2, and one behind your mother had that got burned down.
Right,
So,
Right.
and the 2 is still there.
Right, and then there was like a central like shower house and a pad,
Oh,
a
there
little
was, at the
corral.
beginning, it was the garage, it was a guest house and shower house and everything. Oh, it's a beautiful piece of property.
It was lovely.
We go by there and now and again, we drop by and see it and it's just gorgeous down there.
I remember my father telling me, I think that he and Herbie found the land.
Yeah, when I went Herbie, the first woods.
And I think that I have a picture of my father on horseback. Now, I don't know if he and Herbie went riding or if my dad was riding. And I do remember growing up in the storeroom in our house, where the clothes were a pair of old jodhpurs that belonged to my father. So my mother came here, she got married, you were gone. She came here, and then how long was she here before anyone else from the family came over?
I came over, I was 46. I came here in 49.
49, so she had been here. She was married in December of 44.
During the war.
During the war, and I don't know when she came,
I don't
sometime
know
in
how they ever got
45.
married. There was such a shortage of food. If it wasn't through the Americans bringing food in, there wouldn't be much to eat. There was a lot of people from New Bedford that was there. There was quite a number of New Bedford people
In
that went
Leeds?
to their wedding.
Really?
There was Morris Chaplin, and there was another guy. There was about 5 or 6 guys from New Bedford.
Well, I think Uncle Mark was there. I don't know if Uncle Dick was there, but he was
No, Dick wasn't. Dick wasn't in the army at all.
He was in the army, but I don't think he was in England, maybe.
I didn't know he was in the army. I didn't
At
know he
some
was a
point.
veteran. I was,
So,
look at these.
These were from upstairs, and
You weren't-
Annie likes reading them.
you weren't there for the wedding. You were gone
No,
already.
I just said, when I came back, they were all married.
And Mom came here sometime in 1945.
And Dad came a year later, didn't he?
Well, Lois was born in August of 46, so he had to have come in the fall, and he had to be here by the fall of
Let's
45.
count, let's make sure. 1, 2, 3.
Now, I don't know if I have this particular one. Anne was beautiful. I've never seen this one.
You see, those two sisters, my sisters were, you know, I tell you one thing.
Look at my mom, Annie.
I tell you a strange thing with us.
She's a teenager then, probably.
Linda, when we walked out, when we would go right, Anne would go left, and I would go center. The only time we really got close when I came back from
That's
the
not
army.
Anne. This is Mom.
Yeah, and when I got back from the army, we were so close together. It was unbelievable. But when we were young, each one used to go their own way.
Separate ways.
And Mom was a stickler. Anne was different. Anne was more to share, but Mom was share.
Mom was what?
Mom wasn't the sharing person.
She had her own. God bless the child, she's got her own.
Anne used to cater to me like anything, because the younger brother. But with Marie, hers is hers.
And the rest
don't
is
you
yours.
dare touch it.
Okay.
This is
The goat juice.
at our wedding.
What year were you married?
52.
52. So you came here in 49, you
Yeah.
said? So Mom had already been here 3 years, and she had a baby. She had 2 babies.
This one
And-
you have.
And then
I do, that's
and
the
then
thing.
I had,
Yeah.
and then I had to leave the country.
Why did you
My
have to-
my visa expired, and it
Oh,
wouldn't renew my visa. So I lived in
See, I
Montreal.
knew I had those pictures
Yeah.
that you had.
But these two, I always treasure those two. Now
they're beautiful.
these were teenagers, they're both teenagers.
But she looks so old. Teenagers look so old.
No,
Now, I remember my mom telling me she never had eyebrows, and she told me that when she was a teenager, she shaved off her eyebrows. That was the fashion, you know, the Jean Harlow kind of.
Right.
So she shaved off her eyebrows. They never grew back. So all her life she penciled in eyebrows. So I think this must have been after she shaved,
Well,
because she has the pencil on.
this is our honeymoon, and there's your mother and dad.
They joined you on your
We-
honeymoon.
Yeah.
The funniest thing, listen to this.
Some
We
honeymoon.
was first night, we came to the
You
first
can
night.
see here's another
Next
one.
morning, we got a ring, somebody wants to see you.
Where
And then
were you?
We were
In
in a
Florida.
hotel in Florida. And then they came, and then a little while later we get another call, and then she came. And this,
See, Were they staying at the hotel or just
No,
visiting
no,
you?
no. And your mother and dad were staying at another hotel. And
And we all went out that night.
Now, whose wedding is this?
that's Lee. isn't
That's
it?
Lee. This is the wedding we're all dressed up for. I
Yeah.
was a little kid.
Actually, you know, they have no contact with her. She disappeared. Nobody knows where she is.
It
Now,
is-
Lee is
That's
Sylvan's-
Sylvan's.
Sylvan's sister, but I saw her once at Roz's house.
Yeah,
There's no more contact.
She
with
was in
her.
Washington, or,
Yes, hence,
This is another picture.
and her sister, yeah, I have that one, I think, somewhere. And her sister Sylvia has no
nobody
contact.
had any contact. Oh, this is a mother. It's a nice picture.
And you know something? I can't find that picture.
I love this picture because it's not, it's just a close family, you
Yeah.
know? It's just,
I can't find it.
this is a picture
We
of
couldn't get
Sidney
Dad.
Harbor's.
The hardest thing to get Dad to put a taxi, we had to chase him all over the house. to get-
Grandma looks very elegant in
Yeah,
her lace.
but he did want to wear a tuxedo.
And Mom and Dad look great.
Yeah.
And you look dashing.
Oh.
He looks so dashing with the mustache. Doesn't he have a David Niven kind of look about him? It's Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, and Roz.
Whose wedding is this?
This
Alice.
is
Oh,
Barbara's wedding.
You know,
He was there too.
This is a beautiful picture. Mom and Dad look great.
I
Bill,
have it, and I don't know where.
I'm
it is.
sure it's,
do you know with Bill, he was such a gracious man, and there's nothing he wouldn't do for us. He was just unbelievable, and he was very sick, and he turned around, he said, "Cindy, is everything all right?" And I said, "Yeah, fine, fine." The last thing he did was the day before he died. The
and
family is unbelievable. He was so generous to us, and you know, Mum and Dad were from, you know, they came into this country, they looked at, you know, different, and he was so easy with them, you know, they were tough, you know, just coming to a strange country, some things they didn't like, and you smooth it over for them, don't worry about it, what about this, what about that.
Excuse me, this is at our wedding, and it's the Palestines. You see Hannah
Oh,
there?
See if you get that wedding picture, make a few of those on the, if you get the
There's
one.
enough here.
Ann and Lester, Hi and Bella. I don't know the people on the right.
Well, the LeBlancs were there too.
Mr. and Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yeah.
that worked for me. But Dad, it was so easy going with my parents, it was unbelievable.
Now, how did everyone get here?
Well, I
Did-
told her, I came here on the Queen Elizabeth,
But Mom came here, she flew, obviously,
and I
on the
came here on it, and
Clipper.
then my parents, as told you, came to Elizabeth.
Did Mom send tickets, or how did that all happen? Or
I
did she-
you know, I don't know how they, I don't know, they couldn't read or write, how they got passports, how they got this, I have no idea. Oh, they're stateless. They were stateless, so they had no country. They originally,
But I'm sure your mother arranged for them to come over
I'm
because
sure
they
they
didn't
are, I
have
don't
the
know.
money. And Auntie Sadie probably helped them do what they had to do.
Cause she was still
She was
still in England.
And then later on, I guess they sent for Auntie Sadie.
and then they had trouble with, I told you some, they told you the sun was coming out, look.
Oh, yeah.
And then what happened, that they had the measles, you know, she was in.
Roz had the measles on the way
and-
over.
And then Bill ran down to New York, he called somebody he knew in New York, and they waved, I don't know what he did, she was allowed to come into the country. And since she came here, and Nursey Brown's friend was Nurse, what was the other one, Nurse Brown, the other one?
Nurse Hat?
No,
No, that Hatch was.
There's another nurse there waiting for
Yeah.
her, and checked her out, and they said she's practically over it, measles. And Rossi went from, Rossi was 8 years old, and she went 2 grades above the girls of her age in the Betsy B, which is so far advanced in the English schools. And then she went to Brown, you know, she went to Brown. Just 17 years old when she went to.
So was it hard when my parents left New Bedford? Was it hard?
No,
Grandma,
then we was
Grandpa?
pretty well settled.
Everyone was settled then, and
I mean,
it was hard on you because you had in-laws.
We used to travel to, quite a ride from here to Greenfield.
Right.
You're changing the subject?
No, it was
It was
tough.
hard on you because you were left to kind of care and intervene, smooth things over for them. Because otherwise, my mother and father had helped
Right.
with them.
Right.
So it was hard for you when my parents left.
Oh, we worked 6 days a week, and then Sunday morning we get a call. We want to go to Providence. My father wasn't too happy. This is the one morning we could sleep in. You know, I used to get up 6 o'clock in the morning, and they said, "Why do you want to go to Providence?" The kosher butchers were there. They had to get their meat, kosher meat, and the best butchers were there. So we had to schlep to Providence and do the shopping.
And plus the fact that was the only day we had to see our
That's what I was saying. There's one morning we slept in the morning, first thing in the morning, you get the call.
So they were demanding.
Yeah.
I remember going to 60 Plymouth Street, my strongest memories of going for Seder. And I remember the long Seders, I remember waiting for Grandpa to get home. I remember driving with my mom and my dad and the 3 of us in Hazel.
Yeah.
Oh, Hazel, everything Hazel had to go. Hazel was.
Yes, and I remember coming to New Bedford to visit, and my father always stayed in the same room at the New Bedford Hotel with my mother
Mhm.
and the 2 girls. And I stayed with Hazel at
Her house?
her house, which was her mother's, I guess,
Right.
her mother's apartment, which was in some, tenement-style apartment somewhere in New Bedford.
I think it was in the
On
north.
Road Street.
What was it?
Hazel didn't
Oh,
live.
no, Hazel's, we lived on a tenement on Road Street for the first we got here before. Then we moved next door to you, on Bedford Street. We had the house, a corner. You was on one corner of the street, we was in the other, one house away.
Sid, I wasn't here, but didn't you live on Armour Street and not Roach Street? I think it was Armour Street.
Alma. But then we had the house next to you.
What are you telling me?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay, so I have to speed
Do
up.
you know that we lived in the corner? You had no house in one corner. we had
On the
a
corner
house
of
next-
Ryan and John Street.
Right, and then we had the one in the next corner. And they wanted $8,000 for the house, the one we rented. And Bill and Marie said, "Come on, you buy the house, it's only $8,000." And my mother, they didn't understand what that was. They didn't want to buy it. $8,000.
This was for you or for Grandma and Grandpa?
It was before, we lived there too, I lived there too.
But he was married for
And Anne Marie was married and they didn't want to.
So my dad, I hear tales from Uncle Dick and from my cousin Sam Palestine, that my dad was very generous and very civic-minded and tried to, he started a,
He started the synagogue in Greenfield. He was the one of the largest supporter of the synagogue in Greenfield. I know he gave a lot of money to the synagogue. He was very generous. He was too generous and too kind to people. That's what we give the shirt of his back.
I know he helped a lot of people, I kind of
And
remember that.
there's a lot of people he helped
Yeah.
when he couldn't really do it, but he still helped people. People came first to him, his family and friends. I could remember being stopped and we was driving too fast and we were stopped coming into New Bedford and the police came around. "Hey, lady, you're doing 20 miles over the speed limit. What's your name?" She said, Mrs. Palestine. "Oh, goodbye." He said, my wife works in your place, your husband's place.
Meaning Arlen's or meaning?
No, worked in the factory, that's right.
Now, this is when my dad had, was it Ethan Ames Manufacturing?
These names, yeah. And then he went on to it started off in the Monarch and then to Ethan Ames.
Monarch to Ethan Ames. And they came, I'm not sure when his family, I don't remember that I asked my Uncle Dick, I think they came sometime in the 30s, I guess. They moved from New York to New Bedford. The
Yeah, there was a
manufacturing.
time things were bad and labor was high in New York and most of the factories opened up from New York. There were Greeks. The largest proportion of Jews here were all Greeks. They all went into factories, and because of there's no unions at that time here, whereas New York had unions, they all opened up.
I do remember that even though my father was management, I remember hearing a story that they did try and unionize, and maybe they were successful eventually, that my father's, even though he was management, he also, you know, his heart was with the union. I don't know when they
He was
unionized.
very, very generous to the work people. Do you remember he had a big yacht? You don't remember the time, a big 60-foot yacht.
Well, I remember Herbie's yacht.
No, but your
Before
father
Sarah.
had this yacht, and he used to,
They called it the
Sarah J.
the Sarah J. This is the Sarah J. the fourth. They started off on a small
Well,
boat.
small boat, getting bigger, yeah.
And this is the yacht, I have to show you if you want to see the clippings, that I saved 2 people's lives. The big clipping and honors. So I was, Barbara was 8
I was
months
pregnant,
pregnant.
I wasn't 8.
And we get to the dock, and the Sarah J was off the yacht, way off. So a friend, one of my customers said, "Hey Sid, you want to catch the Sarah J?" I said, "Yeah," on his motorboat. Pulls up alongside the Sarah J, flags it down, we get on the boat. We get to the Woods Hole, and we just get in, there's a portion of the Woods Hole, it's very rough. It's called the Gap, and there's rocks on either side. And we see a skiff to overturn, and I saw some of the water. Over the boat I went, dived in, and this guy was treading water. We had a straw hat. I never forget. I brought him to the boat, and I picked him up. He went up on the stairway, and he's sitting there. And he said, "My friend, get my friend. I see my friend out there." Boom, Sid goes over there, and I see the guy with his head in the water, and it looked to me he was dead. Anyway, I struggled. We had 16 people on board that ship, friends of his, manufacturers. And I get to-
Family too.
And family.
Which,
I
on the
get
boat
to-
that went down or on the
No,
Sarah
no,
J?
no,
So on
the
the
boat that
Sarah
went
J.
down was a skiff, they were overturned, a
Yeah,
couple of
on the
people.
Sarah J there was a lot of family.
And I get to the boat and I said, "This man is dead." That's all I had to say. Everybody ran away. There was only one kid said, "Sid, I'll help you know, a body that's full of water is very heavy. I'm struggling to hold this guy out." Because they said it did, nobody would get near him. So this one kid, we get the body up and lay him on deck, and then he gets into Woods Hole. You have to report it. And story got out, and I had still got the article in the Standard Times, the honors and everything. But I didn't go for the Red Cross medal. That you get this medal, $500, if you save somebody at the attempt of your own life, the risk of your own life. And I had 2 that have these signatures, and I said, "You know, I'm so sick of this. Let's drop it." I dropped it. Only the newspapers picked it up. And I saved it. Well, one I saved, one were hoping. But both families thanked me, even the one I pulled into. Otherwise, you would have been
Lost at sea.
And
So
that
did-
was the subject.
So when did they build the houses on Brant Island?
Gee,
That was before my time.
so it must have been about 1950, 1940, 50. And we
About
found-
1950? And then did family hang out there and have a good time?
Oh, we had parties, we had barbecue parties, like catered, because the people, some people in the factory had cooks. And everything from the factory, they built the
Your
houses.
mother made a beautiful shower for me.
Oh, the shower we had.
Really?
Yeah. You still have some of the things I got?
Sarah was, what, she in the 90s that time, Sarah? She's playing bridge with a whole group of people.
She wasn't that old,
She
Sarah,
wasn't
then.
that old.
No, because
She-
she died in 67 or 68, and she was in her early 90s then.
And she was playing cards, and we had to, I had a van, I filled the van up with gifts. Do you remember?
Mm.
We had such a wonderful time with that. The fairs were just,
Your mother made, none of the other Palestinians, but your mother made these parties, steak parties. Now,
she used to be a
unbelievable.
good baker, pastry, cakes, you know, they used to make them.
She always said that it was my father's idea to do a lot of entertaining, but that was it. After he came up with the idea, he left.
Yeah.
He left it alone, and
It's
then it
funny,
was her
you know,
job to implement
It
it.
amazed me when we were
But
never
she was
doing.
very quick. I
She's
mean,
very quick.
You get there and there'd be nothing on the table, and I mean, before you turn around, a
But
beautiful
yet she
table.
never, back home, she would never do a thing. I could always remember that mom and dad were angry with her because she didn't do anything, but she used to dress up, and she went out. You wouldn't believe how she used to dress. And she could make a dress in no time, but on a sewing machine. She would whip up a dress. Yeah, these dresses like, didn't get the material and bang, shall I whip a dress.
I have some of the things that she wore in some of these pictures. I don't know why she saved them, but a little like crocheted blouse that I have some pictures of her that she wore during the war when she was dating my dad. And one with the little like kind of peasant gypsy blouse with ribbons on the, and I still have that. And then I have a picture of her, I don't know if I have it here, I probably didn't bring it with me, of when she was, when Lois was first born. She had on an opal necklace, a very pretty opal necklace my father must have bought for her either, you know, when he came home, obviously sometime in 1946 or so, that I have now that I'll give to Annie, that will look beautiful on Annie. And when she came to this country, the photographers, news photographers took pictures of her, and she had a beautiful brooch, a big yellow stone, I don't know, a citron I think it's called, that she had on her jacket when she came from Leeds, when she came from England, that I have the brooch.
Oh, you have the brooch.
Why they were both well dressed too, that my father and the boss were old friends for many, many years, and all the samples
Went to your house?
went to either Marie or to Anne, on coats and suits, and they always had plenty. They always had that.
So they looked good?
Always looked just stunning. And Marie went
May I
out.
see those other pictures?
Sure.
When Marie went out, she was dressed.
And did she date at all before my father?
Marie,
I think she always had boyfriends, didn't she?
but Marie was always going to the finest places in London, young, and she always had a lot of good friends, and she went with high society more than Anne or I. She was dressed in
How did she get access to the kind of high society,
I
being a
don't know,
poor,
she was
poor
so-
Jewish girl from
she-
the East End?
I can remember she saying, you know, she said this fellow had a Rolls Royce, or this fellow had a Daimler, and there's no question, I never questioned it, but she was just so beautiful, and she used to go out and unbelievable. That's why she went away,
That's a what?
and we all went different ways, and she used to tell me she used to go to this beautiful place in the West End, in a high class.
But she never
She was
married any of those people? Or?
No, she was a very good dancer too. And Anne too, Anne always had Anne was engaged one time.
I wish
But Marie
things
was
had
never
turned out.
engaged and
Never
never went,
engaged.
she went off to had a wonderful time, you know. She was something. She was very, realized that the standard of living what we had, but she was really seemed well educated. I don't know how she seemed to you, but she seemed to be always.
She seemed to me to be very competent. You know, she could do a lot of things. She could, I remember when I was little, she'd do amazing baking or make a dress or...
Yeah, but our fosters helped me, like, Barbara went to college, and she was a great help to the kids. When they had problems, if they would sit down and problem, she could handle it more than I could, because at 14 I was out of school. And she would handle the schoolwork, but did Marie ever help you?
No, she didn't help with schoolwork. She
Because
didn't...
She like only went to 14 and then went back to
She didn't help in that way. Though she did, you know, I have to remember, she worked with my father. You know, she became a buyer for him in the store. And she, you know, when I got a little older. And she was a working woman. I mean, she didn't, not when we were young, but when, at some point, I don't remember how old I was.
Most of the people I know that dealt with bills said she was very competent in dealing with them. They loved Marie to deal with. They thought so highly. There wasn't a person here that didn't say a nice word about Marie and Bill. And when Bill passed away, they thought a lot of Marie. And they always said she was very competent. The work she did for Bill, running, whatever she had to do, she did right. She wouldn't buy anything or doing anything. She had to run some part of the store she did.
How'd you get along with my father's family?
She got the Palestinians loved her. They loved her.
I wonder, I mean, I think that they tended to be
They're very
more
close to-
snobbish, though.
No, even with me, before I was married, I was always with them. And many a time, we'd go out, and as you know with the Palestinians, the oldest one pays for everything. Like Lester, if Lester was there, there's no question, I'll pay and you pay. It was Lester's,
Bill.
it was Lester to pay the oldest. I remember Dickie and I were invited to Plymouth for a weekend. I was friendly that time with Dickie. I used to go out a lot, brought me to New York a few times with Dickie, to the house in New York, and
In Mount Vernon.
what?
In Mount Vernon, New York?
Mount Vernon.
Never been there, never done there.
And with Dickie we were always going a long period. But that time in the Palestine or whenever, you know, they come to Brown Island, if there was a party or anything, it was Lester. Okay, that was the...
Lester paid. And if Lester was gone, it was left
Then
to,
the next office.
it was Herbie or someone.
Herbie never had money until he...
Herbie never had money.
Yeah,
I
he was,
heard that. Herbie was like written off as the...
They tried to.
They tried to set him
get
up all the time.
They tried so many times to try to get him out of the town, to give him money, go out, make the city. He had a reputation. But he was a good guy. He was a nice guy, Herbie. But he had a bad reputation. Very bad.
As a ladies' man, as
Oh,
a...
ladies, I remember he said, come up and pick up clothes. And he went with some of the most gorgeous girls you've seen. Next time if he driving a new car, he'd buy him a new car. I think nothing of it. I got to houses, you know, I used to pick up the girls. He bought a place up in some farm,
Pignair in Birchfield.
Birchfield. And I don't want to talk on the camera. It was a play, it's a play place.
Mm-hmm.
Should I turn this off and you can tell stories?
No, I was at Birchfield. I mean,
But he was, had a reputation there. Anyway, that's Herbie. He was
it
single.
wasn't my father. My father was very prudish, I thought, in many ways.
He was, he lived in the Fontainebleau. He had the penthouse in the Fontainebleau.
Herbie, yes, I know.
Yeah, Herbie's penthouse, playhouse, not
Yeah.
penthouse.
Yes, I know Herbie had some questionable friends too. But my father actually, he and my mother were not
But they
wild or
they
swinging.
tolerated him, and your father was the one who backed him. If they were upset with Herbie, it was your father to straighten things out. Always your father had to straighten everything out. He had that slow way to talk, you know, father. You know, the way he talked to people.
Was my father sick when he was in New Bedford, or was it?
He's been sick for quite a few years, I think. He was mostly,
I know. I
he
think
was smoking, constantly smoking and taking aspirin. He was constantly, oh, no, Emperor.
Yeah, no. I think my mom told me that when I was born, my dad was in the hospital at the time with pneumonia or something.
He was, I don't know, but he was,
And that would have been in 1950. So.
he,
I mean, I never remember him as being a healthy person, but he must have been at
was,
some point.
Palestine is so well known in the bed that everybody, you know, I have some people here mention Marie and Marie and Bill.
It's been a long time. Well, I thank you. I know we're out of, are we out of tape now?
About 10 more minutes.
It's okay.
It is something to look back on that family. It was unbelievable. He was the most striking of all the Palestine to me. He was the one that was most generous, most kindest of all people in Palestine.
Well, my Uncle Dickie's daughter, Jane, he had Sam and Jane, were his two children, named her son William,
Oh, they said,
after my father. And of course, Lois named her first son,
right.
William.
Gee, that's right, we was talking to, you know, when we get back to Delaware, we've got to get hold of William. We've got to invite him.
It's not going to be easy. He's a resident now, so he's 24 hours a day. You know, he's on these...
I think she spoke to him once, Sharon, but when I'll be going there in a couple of weeks, we've got to try and get, he's such a nice fellow.
He is a nice guy.
So we've got to try and get him from them. Cheers.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chuck, for once again.